Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of The Bright Side of Life. I am your host, Melissa Bright, and today I have a very, very exciting guest. Today we have Mike Rodriguez, who is a professional MMA fighter, and he fought in the UFC. He did retire from competition, and now he is an athletic director at Level Ground MMA, which is a nonprofit youth MMA gym in Dorchester. I hope I said that town right.
Yeah, he said.
Perfect. Mike also does a lot of community outreach with other nonprofits and schools in the community, and he's really wanting to spread the word that MMA, is a great tool for personal development for everyone. So that's kind of why he's here today to share a little bit about his story, his upbringing, how MMA is good for, personal development and things like that. So without further ado, Mike, welcome to the Bright Side of Life. How are you doing on this? What day is today? Monday afternoon?
Monday. I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. Been spending a lot of time with the kids, so it's fun.
Yeah, I see your Instagram and always posting videos of them, and it looks awesome to be able to, help them, and the way that you're helping them, and we'll talk more about that. But first, we're gonna get your story kind of out of the way. Originally, when your friend Kat, I'm gonna name drop her, messaged me.
Yeah.
She says, I have a friend Mike, and he's in the UFC, and he has a crazy wild story. He grew up in the projects in Boston, and so that's the story I want. So kind of tell me a little bit about your childhood and what that was like.
So I grew up in Dorchester. Oh, I grew up a little all around Boston. I lived in Mission Projects for a little bit. Spent a good portion of my life in Dorchester as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I grew up in a single parent household, just my mom, two brothers. I'm the middle. I'm the middle child. Yep. And growing up, it was tough. It was really tough. A lot of times, I always had to prove myself in our neighborhoods. Due to everybody always thought they were always like, you're different, because I didn't really listen to rap. I didn't like basketball. I didn't gravitate towards most of the things that the other kids gravitated towards.
Mm-hmm.
So they always thought I was a softie or whatever. But one thing I always did was fight. Fighting around the neighborhood, fighting other kids from other neighborhoods. It's just what happens, and it's something that, like, I got kind of used to growing up in Boston.
Right.
And then fast forward into high school, me getting into a fight in high school, which catapulted me into getting into MMA. I got into a fight in high school, knocked out a kid, and my teacher was like, I want to show you what MMA is all about. So he pulled me to the side, showed me MMA. He gave me a bunch of Pride DVDs to watch while I was suspended.
Yeah.
And I just got hooked on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, was he in it himself? Like, was he interested in MMA himself, or was he just like, I know this kid is like fighting, but maybe we can actually use it for some good?
So he didn't. He would come to school all messed up. We would always, all the kids like, yeah, why is he beat up? And then after I got into that fight and he started showing me MMA, he told me, he was like, oh, I fight too. I've been fighting. Yeah, but he still, oh my gosh, he used to look so messed up all the time. He's like, oh, I fell off my scooter. Oh, I was walking down the street. He always had some bullshit ass excuse.
You're like, that's not adding up.
Yeah, we saw it. Dude, what? He's like, yeah, I heard this, so I did that. Yeah, it was funny.
Oh my gosh. So when you first saw MMA, like, what did you think? Were you like, okay, like, this is cool? Or like, what were some of your first, I know that's asking a lot, but like first thoughts?
I like this question a lot. So when I first initially, I would always watch boxing and stuff.
Yeah.
And I just was like, boxing's cool, but it doesn't, like, we don't just have arms, because I would watch like Bloodsport and like, all of these martial art movies. And then I see them kicking and doing that. I'm like, okay, we know these are all the things the human body can do. Why do we just limit ourselves just to punching? So I had that concept in my head. Then when I finally seen them fighting and it was punching and kicking and doing all that, I was like, this is awesome. Like I love this. I want to be part of this. So that's how I hopped on board to it. That's what was mainly attractive because I felt that it was no like I feel like it was very honest and very authentic. It's just one on one, you and another person, and you're just fighting to see
Yeah.
who's better. I don't know, like that thing drove me so much behind it. Yeah.
That is so awesome. So from there, did he get you into a gym? Did you find a gym? By the way, what did your mom say? Being like, "Oh, mom, now I'm gonna like really actually go fight in a gym."
So he brought me to a gym. He brought me to a gym in Dorchester. It used to be called. So funny, wild coincidence. So the gym that I started at, Boston Muay Thai Academy,
Okay.
was the last location that Level Ground was in. The Level
Okay.
Ground MMA gym that I worked for, that's
Yeah.
who they originally was at when I
Okay.
first met them. Yeah. So it's kind of like, it's funny. I started there in that building and ended up working in that building. But
Right.
so I I hopped on. I started training at this gym, Boston Muay Thai Academy. He took me there. I was training, and a snowball effect occurred where I just was like, okay, this is what I wanted to do. There was no way you could convince me otherwise. So I started to keep that track in my mind, and I'm like, okay, what can I do to make it so I can always be in the gym training? Next thing you know, at my little 16, 17-year-old self, I started skipping school, going to the gym. All the money that I would work at Burger King at the time, I would take it, save it up, spend it on gym equipment. So one day my mom stopped me. She go, listen, I'm looking at your attendance for school. Like your school's calling me. You haven't been in school in like 2 months. What's the deal? I told her I like training. I said, I love training. I don't want to stop doing it. And this is what I'm going to do. She go, listen, I don't care if you want to fight. That's your business. But just give me the high school diploma. So I bust my ass to get a high school diploma. she left me alone.
There you go.
Yeah. We never had the conversation about it again after that. I said, all right, I got her a diploma and that was it.
Hey, that's like the best that she could ask for, like, okay, you got
Yeah.
a diploma, then you go do whatever else you want to do, and that's fine by me. It's funny that you said that you worked at Burger King because I worked at Burger King too. That was my, I think, like second job.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, what's the same? Second or third job.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. So, okay, in high school, was there any, because I know MMA obviously is mixed martial arts.
Yep.
So, was there a certain, and my Wi-Fi might be messing up a little bit. Was there a certain like part of MMA that you really liked or was drawn to? I mean, I'm not a professional, but I've watched a lot of MMA, so I wasn't sure if there's, certain things that like drew you, like that you liked doing more or practicing more or whatever.
So I started. So when I was younger, when I first got into the game, I started just Muay Thai.
Okay.
That was the first thing I learned, and then I would do jiu-jitsu about twice a week, and that's all I had. That's all I was able to get, and so from there, I started to go to other gyms and meet other fighters and things like that. And then towards the end of it, I end up getting into wrestling. Like I really started to love wrestling at the end. And it was always one of those things. So when I was young, when I was like coming up, I knew it was a big hole in my game, but it was one of them face the fear type things. It was a big fear of mine, but I didn't want to face it. And then
Why was that your fear?
I just was never good at it. I felt like it was so hard for me to understand or to do it right. And I just would mentally like kind of like check out or block out. I'm like, but like grappling, and I was so like self-conscious of it. I was like, no, I don't want to do it. I don't do it. And I just needed to believe in myself. But at the time, I didn't have that type of mindset.
Yeah.
So like towards like the middle to end of my career, I started to do those a lot more, and I realized I wasn't striking as much. And then I just fell in love with grappling and wrestling. And, oh, it's so fun to do. And so a lot of times, like, I'd rather just do that than actually fight or anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not get punched in the face. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I would want to do that too.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that because yeah, I told you I've watched tons and tons of UFC, and it is obvious, like, to see people, like, they'll call it out and they're like, he's a wrestler, so why isn't he doing this? Or we
Right.
know that he's not that. He doesn't really whatever. He doesn't have a lot of experience in it, so we know that's why he's not doing that. So it's funny that you said that. It was kind of the thing that you were scared of, but it's cool that you did face your fears and you wound up really liking it.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like you said, the fear of the unknown, and then it's like one of those hard things because if you're bad at it, like, I don't know. Sometimes it's like it sucks because if you don't get better, it's really hard to keep going because you're like, I just suck at it. I just suck at it. I just suck at it.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. No, it is now because of that lesson. I teach that to my own personal kids as well as all the kids that I teach as well.
Mm,
Something I got out of fighting.
yeah.
You know.
Well, that's what that was kind of one of the questions. And I mean, we'll get to it like more like in your career, but like how you face, I guess that's such a good question. Like what makes you keep trying to do something to get better at it, even though, like, what would you say to anybody, a listener? It doesn't necessarily have to be MMA. It could be any sport or anything that they're doing. Like,
Right.
if you don't think you're good at it, what advice would you give them if they're like, man, but I know that this could excel me. I know that this could catapult me to be at my next whatever.
I
What would you
just
say?
what made me start to push forward to drive is what I always tell people is like the outcome. You know, it's something what before you when you pass away, there should be a list of things that you be like, okay, I've done. You know what I mean? And you want to make sure you give all those list of things your all. And one of the things was to be the best fighter I could possibly be. I didn't want to have no like shoulda, woulda, couldas or anything of that nature. So I was like, I knew that this was a hole in my game. How do I make me become better? I knew my goal was to be a better fighter.
Mhm.
Well, if this one thing that I'm fearful of, if it'll make me better if I just go through the bullshit, then I'm just gonna have to go through the bullshit, you know. I really am. So like a lot of I mean, I always used to, before I went through like a whole period in my life where I would always be like, you know, woe is me. I had a rough upbringing or
Mhm.
whatever. But then now, throughout my 20s, now that I'm older, throughout my 30s, now I'm looking at it as like that. Wait a minute, all that bullshit I went through gave me so much thick skin to go through any other bullshit to go through now. You know what I mean? Like my situation growing up was tough, as well as the career I had. The MMA
Mhm.
career, let me tell you, it is not easy. You know, so
Oh,
for me to do all those things, it's like I'm always been going against the grain, going through adversity, you know, trying to be resilient. And
mhm.
those are all common themes of my life. So
Ye-
I just, I know those are common themes in my life. I know those are good things that I'm really good at. Those are good traits I have. So I literally can apply them to anything my heart desires.
Yeah. I love that you said that because not that we have the same upbringing or anything like that, but I've had a lot of adversity, like losing my mom when I was 25 and my dad when I was 35. And like you said, sometimes you're like, woe is me. Like, why did this happen?
Right.
But looking back, like connecting the dots, not saying that my parents should have died, but I have learned to become stronger. I don't have them to lean on, so I've had to
Mm-hmm.
do my own, stuff like that. So it definitely things start to make sense like when you get older and you do become more resilient, more strong, what have you.
Absolutely. And yeah, I literally took that and just uses wood to add to the fire. Boom. So that fire keep burning, keep burning, keep burning.
Yeah.
And this is the same thing I coach to everybody. Everybody I come interact with, I coach the same thing to them because it's something I truly believe in.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the kids that you teach, and we'll kind of get back to your story, but the kids you teach, are they necessarily from a hard upbringing? Is it a mixture? Is it
I don't know.
okay.
Honestly, I don't know. And I always say this to them because they always ask, like, we always have these conversations about where we came from. I feel like it's a very common thing in this
Mm-hmm.
world now.
Yep.
It's about like where you came from, where you're from. I always tell them straight up, I don't give a fuck where you came from. You're
Yep.
here, let's get better and let's move forward and progress forward. That's it. And for some odd reason, that like clicks to them all the time. Oh, all right. And then I'm like, when you're here, just lock in here. This moment is about you. So I'm always coaching that to them. But I honestly, I don't know where any of them came from. A lot of them, where they came from. A lot of
Yeah.
them, I don't know their backstory. And that's the beauty of my space of when I teach and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you to think of those things.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't want you to think. You should be thinking of how to build yourself here in this moment.
Yeah.
Because for this 60 to 45-minute time frame that we have each other in this space to learn how to fight, punch, kick, and lose weight and attack mental healthness and all that shit, why the fuck are you thinking about somebody else or where you coming from? What? No. Be selfish in this moment.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So that's an ideology I always tell them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're aware of it, but that might help them in like the fact that, they might think, oh, he's treating me a certain way because of this, that, or the other. But if you don't know, and you're like, no, I just know that you're Joe and you're here and you're practicing. That's all I need to know.
Yeah. I do focus on like little things like
Yeah.
building characters and things of that nature. But one of the things like a lot of kids, they always be shoulda, woulda, coulda, like having all these past tense thought process. And I'm just like, one of the ways to eliminate that is to be thinking here in the moment, being now.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. I had a guest and she I think it was her therapist. He said, get rid of all the shoulda, woulda, couldas. He's like, don't even say that ever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, yes, because I'm.
And one of my
guilty.
classes, I'm guilty. One of my classes, I have it as one of our guidelines. So each class I have with kids, I always like, okay, I like to let them govern themselves. So I'm like, forget your teachers, forget your parents. This is your space, you guys' space. What are the guidelines here? What can you not do and what can you do? And they all come up, and one of them was shoulda, woulda, couldas. I was like, I'm going to add that one to it. And now everybody's always mindful of it. Yep, don't say it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is so awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I want to go back to the fear thing about the wrestling. Was your coaches, were they aware that you were fearful of it? Like, would they say, like, Mike, you know you need to do this, you're just scared? Or was this something you had to like realize on your own, or how did that kind of come about?
I'm not sure if they knew I was afraid of it or anything. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But it was just something that I realized about myself when I started working with other coaches, you know.
Yeah.
And I would work with them, and they were like, it was kind of in a forced situation where you had to wrestle, you know.
Oh, yeah,
it was like,
yeah.
What else are you gonna do? You know?
Yeah. No, we got to get back up. I only know how to punch you.
Yeah. And there was always times when like I was out of state. I was out of my comfort zone.
Oh.
So, and it was like, okay, well, here in this gym, we wrestle here. You're gonna wrestle every single day. And I'm like, oh crap. And it was like nothing you can do about it, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's cool though to like think about that like in hindsight, because it probably was setting you up to be like, okay, now like I'm tired of being in these positions, like especially if it was a fight, like I actually want to know how to do this stuff. So you keep getting introduced to it and be like, okay, now it's time I need to learn this so I can be more comfortable with it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So Getting into UFC, like, did you ever doubt your abilities? Like, can I do this? Is this like, I mean, I just think for you to make it into, professional MMA is just incredible. There's so
Thank you.
much that you've had to overcome and discipline and motivation. I mean, don't take what you've done lightly. I'm sure you don't.
Thank you.
But did you ever have to get over any limiting beliefs or anything like that?
Yeah. So for a long time, I didn't think I was that good.
Okay.
I thought I was like decent,
Mm-hmm.
like average. I didn't think I was good enough to make it in the UFC, and I didn't think I was good enough to be in the UFC.
Mm.
Um, because making it there is one ball game, but staying there is a whole another one. Um,
Oh.
so I didn't think I had the skills to, you know, I didn't, and I always had doubts in it. There was times where I'll go to the gym and I would be the only guy in the UFC, and then I just get my ass handed to by everybody, and then I leave
Mm.
out of there like, why are you even here? You know.
Yeah.
But they were rough. But for a long time, I did not think I was even at that caliber. And then when I started meeting other fighters
Mm-hmm.
who haven't been there yet, who are trying to get to the UFC, and they see you, the way they look at you, they look at you like an icon. They're like, man,
Mm-hmm.
like you're a legend, And I'm, how do you know my name? And, like I barely know my own name.
Right.
And yeah, but they're like, yo, and there's some guys that will be like, I know in this fight, that fight, this round, that round, or in all of that. And yeah, it's pretty awesome.
So how did you get over those, or how did you get over your limiting beliefs?
Um, Building blocks. I started to believe in like the more I trained and the more I started to overcome certain things, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I can do this, Or if
Yeah.
like at the times I did that thing, or if like training with certain people and like I noticed when other high caliber fighters want to train with me,
Yeah.
they're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yo, and they reach out to you, they're like, yo, I really think you're pretty dope. Like you should come work with us. Things like that also boost my confidence, and that's when I started limiting my belief. And yeah, that's when I started killing all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do your coaches, are they just helping you with like the technical aspect? Like, do they help you with any kind of mindset or mental work at all? Or is it strictly just, I don't even know if technical is the word. Is it just strictly fighting stuff? I guess is the word.
Um, a little bit of both,
Okay.
a little bit of both, but I think I'm trying to find the best way to say this. Not every okay, just because I can teach you how to fight,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't necessarily mean I can coach you. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
yeah.
So I felt like there was a lot of teachers and not enough coaches, you know.
Okay.
Like cuz I feel like as a coach when you're coaching, like a teacher, you just teach the person, that's it. You go
Mm,
about your day.
yep.
As a coach, in my personal opinion, this is just my personal opinion, I feel like you have to play the line of both.
Yeah.
You have to be able to instruct your athlete to do XYZ, but also make them feel the confidence to do XYZ as well.
Yep.
You should be able to read them like a book whenever they're having a bad day, good day, whatever. Um, so yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. That's
Mhm.
actually a good way to put that. Cause yeah, teaching, you can just kind of like, okay, here, do 1, 2, 3, ABC, done, cool, bye, see ya.
Yeah.
But coaching, you need to know them kind of like the whole person, you
And
know?
I didn't learn that until I started doing it myself.
Oh,
When once I started teaching people, teaching is different. Like I can teach anybody. I can teach you. I can teach anybody. It's not a problem.
yeah.
Coaching, it's a little different. It's a
Yeah.
little different.
Yep.
You have to be able to bring that person up. keep them honest, but like keep them well balanced. Make sure
Yeah.
they have their self belief up, like
Yep.
So
Exactly.
yeah,
Do you feel that you had to like, first you started training MMA, then now when you found out or however, I don't know how it works, like when you get into the UFC, but it like you had to elevate, like there had to be another like mic but you are kind of like slowly learning that. You're like, "Oh shit, now I'm in the UFC, like I kind of feeling like I don't maybe like I don't know if I should even be here." So then you have to almost like get to that level. Like you have to meet yourself there. Does that make sense?
yeah, that makes sense. You have to. It's not even meet yourself there. It's like when you get into that UFC, you have to bring yourself as high as you possibly can. You
Yeah.
have to literally start thinking of everything you do is can possibly make you win or lose your next fight. It makes you so superstitious and so like spot on about things, so anal about things,
Yeah.
um, like all the time. It's just it's wild, and it's just because you want to be at that level. Because in the whole community, that's the 1%, you
Yep.
know. And if
Yep.
you're in that mix, you're in the whole history of the sport of MMA, you're pretty much amongst the best, the greatest of all time. The fact
Yep.
that you made it to the 1%, right?
Yep.
So people will do, they try to do everything and anything to stay up there. So everybody has this delusional mentality up there. It's like, nah, fuck that. I can't be rejected. This is where I belong. This is where I'm going to stay at.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Did you
pretty.
have that? You had that mentality?
No, I didn't, because I don't know. I can't be anybody else but myself. So I just keep being myself,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But I for sure have seen a lot of friends. I've seen a lot of people who weren't in the UFC and then they got into the UFC and their whole demeanor switched by the time they got there.
Mm. And not in a
Because
good way.
yeah, they changed. They like
Yeah.
they just became this extra. Like it went from fun trying to live your dream, and then now it's like you're kind of like stressing in your dream, if that makes
Oh,
sense.
yes, yes, yes,
You
yes.
know,
That's
and
what I was gonna ask you.
yeah,
Like you are at a whole nother level. So the
mhm,
pressure that you now have on yourself for, I mean, one to win, two, the money, like so many reasons. Like,
right.
did you work well under pressure?
I yes and no. Some days I'll be able to turn it. It was never the pressure of the like fans or the camera or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It was always the personal pressures,
Yeah.
like in my personal
Yep.
life. That was
Okay.
always it. It was never the fans, whatever. I don't care for any of that. It
Yeah.
was always like personal life. The things I was dealing with in my personal life was the pressure that
Mm. Is
bothered me.
that is that a commonality like with fighters, or is it like it just depends on the person? Some people are like, I get scared in front of an audience and cameras, and the other person's like, I just got to make my dad proud,
A
or
lot
is
of
it
people, yeah, a lot of people do. There's a lot of people. It's I think it's like an event to event cases. I think some people are usually like fine. They're like, oh nah, it's no biggie or whatever. But then and they'll be fine over 10 fights. But this
mm,
one fight, I don't know, somebody in that camp, maybe like a coach got sick, he wasn't there.
okay.
So they're going through that, or like maybe they got into a fight with their girlfriend that week. Like it could
Yep.
be a 92
Anything.
of things, and it just can take their course off. I've seen some of the greatest fighters of all time shake. And she's like, yo, I can't. Like, it's too stressful. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes like big events they would even say on there. Like the one guy that his stepdaughter was killed
Yeah.
um and he fought, it was, I don't know if it was like really close to that time, like after that or something, but it just,
It was very close.
yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot even imagine that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Now, for UFC, how many fights do you have? Like,
Me?
well, yeah, because it's usually only like two or three or four. Like, I mean, it's not tons. You're not fighting like every other week or month or anything, right?
No, it's I think I had like 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just sometimes I do good under pressure and other times I don't because I am such a perfectionist
yeah,
that sometimes I guess for me the next big thing for me that would maybe be my UFC fight is like public speaking. Like I want to be a motivational speaker
yeah,
and I'm like, okay, this is now 4 months away and I just have copious amounts of like pressure on myself. Like that would be really really hard for me because like don't you usually know when your next fight is?
yeah, yeah.
And that was okay? You did good with that kind of stuff?
So I remember one time I was in the same how you were saying how
Mhm.
about the public speaking. I was in the same thing. I was gonna fight. I was going to fight in Milwaukee, I think it was,
Okay.
and I was nervous. And I was in Milwaukee. It was fight week. I was so nervous, and I was like, "Oh man!" And I met this old dude, this random old dude that was like walking down the street, and he was like, "Yeah, you're a big dude. Like, where you from? Whatever." Like talking, whatever. I was getting coffee, and he said to me, and I was telling. He asked me, "Was I nervous about fighting?" I said, "Yeah." And this one line he said to me that I always remembered, that always gave me an ease. So no matter what the outcome is, no matter what you do, no matter how you do it, your loved ones will always love you. And I felt
Mm.
so much better. It felt like the biggest relief off me when he said that to me. Because I like during that time there was a lot of personal pressure as well.
Mhm.
And he said that to me, and I was like, oh man, oh man, it just felt so good.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Those like aha moments are just
yeah,
sometimes like, they're usually just like simple quotes or something like that and then you're like, yeah, you're right. Either way, everything is they're still going to love me, win or
yeah.
lose.
Because I never, especially if that's something that you're worried about, if your parents, your
Yeah.
loved ones, or whoever, you're gonna let them down after whatever your outcome is, because that's usually the number one big fear is letting them down. And when he said that to me, and I'm like, you know what, that's so true, because like I'm pretty sure you've been through other shit in your life that your loved ones still, they still loved you, they still care for you. I'm like, oh, yeah, valid point,
Yeah.
but yeah,
You like I don't know, just a lot of things are riding on it, obviously like money and things like that. It can change people's lives, obviously,
right,
for those things. So you get worried.
true. Then I that was I went out there, finished the guy in the first round. It was a good time that same night. It's a
Yeah,
good
you're
time.
like, thank you, old man that I talked to on the street.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. So,
Yeah.
what would you say MMA, UFC, whatever, like is it if you had to say like what is the most important thing? Is it discipline? Is it motivation? Is it a mental game? Is it skill? Is it what do you think if you had to choose?
I would say it's definitely mental. It's more mental than anything.
Yeah.
I think if you can balance that scale between logic and emotional thinking,
Mhm.
I think you're okay. You'll be
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say mental, but yeah. It's mentality is everything. I
Yeah.
mean, it
Yeah.
just
If you can't, you have to start switching on that gear, but like, all right, like turn it on and being able to balance those emotions and stuff and thoughts out.
yep.
It'll
So
be good.
so spot on. So
Yeah.
without getting into like too much of it, but once you left the UFC, what made you choose to do like did you already know you wanted to go into like helping youth or did it kind of just like play out that way or
So a couple of things. So I always wanted to be a teacher,
okay.
but I was afraid of school. I didn't think I did terrible in school. I got ADHD and I'm dyslexic as fuck.
Yeah.
So school was never good for me. And like taking tests and shit was super intimidating to me.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I never knew what to do. I just would be like, and so I'm like, all right, after I'm done with fighting, I got to figure out something to do. I started working with Level Ground. We started working with Level Ground because I just wanted like extra side money, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yep.
So I was like, all right, and while I'm in town and in between training sessions, I'll just get some extra money. And that's it. So that's what I would do. And snowball effect happens. Next thing you know, I'm there throughout the fall, the winter. They having a summer program. They asked me, do I want to be the athletic director for the summer program? I was like, all right, I'm going to be in Boston still, so sure. So I did that. The next thing you know, I left for a little bit to go train into some fights. Then I came back. Then they asked me, do I want to be for the summer, for the school year? So it was just a constant snowball effect, Everything was falling into place to what I needed. Now I'm a teacher, basically.
It's so cool. Like just what universe, God, whoever you want to say, like will provide you, and things that you desire. Like yours was becoming a teacher, and who knew that this was gonna fall into place when it did?
Yeah, I that's what I try to practice with all the kids too. It's like one of the things I did was that I always believe in is do everything in your power to create the perfect image that you want to create. You know,
Mm.
if that means you have to take the shitty job so that you can get up and go train, guess what you got to do? Take the shitty job so you can get up and go train. That's what I did, and I just feel like a hypocrite if I would tell someone to do the opposite.
Yeah.
So I always try to instruct that same thing. Like, dude, just play out your life the way you want to play out. Do all the things that you want to do.
Yep.
I mean, there's literally nobody telling you can't besides you. Nobody. You know?
Sometimes that's the worst is
Yeah,
ourselves.
yeah. So I always have these talks with the kids. They'd be like, oh, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, who is stopping you? Look around. I'm like, who? Like, who? Nobody's stopping you. So go
Yep.
do what you want to do.
Yep.
You know?
I used to always say, like, on my, whether it was on social media and people are like, well, they will say something, they will say, and I'm like, who is they? Like, I
Ooh,
need you to give names right now.
yeah,
And then, like, you realize, I mean, some people do have naysayers. I get that. But for me, it's always been me stopping myself. I haven't had anybody else say, no, you can't do this. I'm like, okay, I only have to deal with myself. We
right.
can do this.
Yeah, I'm the same exact. I had a lot of those type of thoughts in my mind, like of stopping myself. But then I pay attention to my actions, and I'm like, okay, I am still on the course of track. You know what I
Yep.
mean? I'm still on the course, regardless to what. So
Yeah.
then I just like, shut up. You know what I'm talking about.
We're So the kids that you teach or coach now or teach whatever,
Yeah.
are they doing this just for like fun, or are they like, no, I really want to do MMA like in the future, well, like professionally, or take it serious, I guess is my question.
Honestly, I don't think any of them want to actually be fighters. I
Okay.
think they like learning how to fight, and they like what they're getting from it. A
Yeah.
lot of them build their confidence. A lot of them found community. Um, a lot of them develop a lot of self-confidence, self-belief, build up self-esteem,
Mhm.
self-control, get disciplined. So there's a lot of things that these kids are getting out of besides punching and kicking each other, taking out aggression. So, so like it's an awesome thing, but I don't, as for taking it like actually want to fight, I don't think I'll produce a fighter, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when they ask me about it, I'm like, listen, the fight game is real rough, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of them they are very ambitious kids, and they want to
Mhm.
do other things, a lot of
Okay.
better other things. I
Yeah.
got some kids that want to be nurses, They got some kids that talking about going to be a lawyer, and they
Yeah.
talk about a bunch of things that when I was their age, I was not thinking about.
Right.
So I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
cool,
that's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you've retired UFC. Would you go back? I don't know what age like you're supposed to be like not in the best health or tip top shape, if you will, whatever
Whenever the
it's
hell you
called.
want to.
Touche. Touche.
It's always gonna be a fight. If you want to take a fight, sign up, call a promoter. Promoter will book you like that, no problem.
Really?
Yeah, it's not
Are
hard
you
to fight.
done fighting or
No,
no?
I don't want to fight anymore. I don't really
No.
have any. Well, like I'm not motivated at the moment to fight. I like the things that I like to do. It's fun. It pays the bills. It keeps me home a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There you go. It's still so awesome though that you can say that you were in the UFC. I think it's
Yeah.
freaking and especially once I realized, I'm like, holy shit, I know that I've watched actually a lot of your, because I started watching religiously with my ex-boyfriend like in 2019, 2018, and we
Yeah.
watched it all the way
I
until
feel like that's what everybody was watching. It was like, yeah, when I was in quarantine, yep. Got you.
well, in my defense, I watched it before that, but
Right.
I swear, and every time we would pick out a fighter, like who we thought was going to win, and I am telling you, I should have like played the lottery because I would always pick the winner all
Yeah.
the time, always. But when I told you, when I went back and was looking at your stuff, I'm like, wait a minute, I know that fight. And then I watched it. I'm like, yep, I remember that fight like it was yesterday. Cause I know, like, I remember me and my ex like commenting on it and talking about
Yeah.
how we thought the ref didn't make a good call. But
Did me
anyway,
dirty. Did me dirty.
very dirty, very dirty. Yeah, not okay. So what do you think? This is a loaded question also, but what can you say that MMA has done for you, like as a person, like most? If you had to choose one thing, I know that's hard.
I would say that's a good one. The one thing that it did was it grounded me. It made me so present. Yeah, MMA is a very, 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 very present, like in the moment kind of sport. You know,
Yeah,
it's not like with basketball you can sit back. You know, oh, the ball's down there. Yeah, y'all go. Like you know, you can't do that. You know, you can't.
you're gonna get knocked out.
It's very raw. It's very honest. I like it. I like it. It's like this is what I am, who I am, right here.
Yeah.
You know.
I love that. Do you do, because you talk about being like grounded and present, do you do like any meditation practices or anything like that?
Okay. I do meditation. I do yoga.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought about you because you said that you have ADHD. My friend Cody Rain is also he might be dyslexic also, but he does Joe Dispenza's Blessings of the Energies circles, whatever, but it's like for ADHD.
Okay.
It's that meditation. Anyways, yeah.
Good try.
No, it's really cool. Okay, I'm trying to see what other questions I have over here. So I think you pretty much talked about how MMA can be a good like development tool for people. We kind of talked about that in the when you were talking about the kids. So I think we're pretty much done here. I usually just have, you don't have, is there anything I did forget to ask this that you would want to like promote or anything? I mean, I know you're a teacher now. If, any parents might be listening from Dorchester that their kids could get into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If anybody in Boston,
okay,
in the Boston area, 19 and under, and come to Level Ground for absolutely free. Adults, you have to pay $30 a month, but you can come learn jiu-jitsu, MMA by me, kickboxing, Muay Thai. Come in to get a nice good workout in. Or if you want to come in, you want a nice quiet place to get some, not quiet, but a nice community and place to hang out at, and help some kids with their homework. Definitely take tutors on all the time, volunteer tutors. Come on through. It's a nice spot. Teens that need jobs.
okay,
we'll give you jobs.
The kids get to do it for free?
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yep.
Holy crap, that is really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like signing up all the kids. You have like 500 kids now. When this episode goes live, all of a sudden you have like 50 kids.
Bring them out. Bring them in. Bring them in.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. All right, Mike. Well, I'm not going to take up any more of your time, but I do have one last question that I ask all of my guests. And my question is for you.
Yeah.
In your own words, what does the bright side of life mean to you?
The bright side of life. I would say for me, what instantly came into my head is like thinking of all the moments where the moments you have where you show love, happiness, compassion, and honesty. I feel like those are all the bright sides of life. When you're expressing all of those type of feelings and thoughts.
Yeah.
When you're doing little things like holding the door open for someone else, pulling out your seat, like pulling out someone's seat, just anything, any little thing where you're putting someone else first, or you're appeasing someone else, or uplifting yourself. I think those are all bright sides of life.
I love that. Yeah, just like sharing, spreading more kindness and love throughout the world.
Right.
I love it. I haven't had an answer like that before. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for coming on here to share your story and kind of talk about how MMA, is good for personal growth. So
yes, it is.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you.
All right.